Record. All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Thank you. I am Trujillo Rex. I am a cosplayer and a panelist. I am a cosplayer. I've been cosplaying for almost 16 years, and I've been hosting panels for almost 6 years as well. I got into cosplaying because of the 80s. I'm an 80s kid, so watching movies, things like Terminator, Rambo, and so on, got into dressing up. It wasn't until I had a co-worker of mine from work. I used to work at Motorola, and he asked me like, "Oh, Josh, you're into cosplaying, right? You're into this, geeky pop culture stuff?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Hey, have you ever been to Akon?" And I'm like, "You mean the singer, or?" Because, there's Akon the rapper, right? That's the only guy that I know who was Akon. They said, "No, it's an anime convention thing." I'm like, "Okay." So I went there. It was a awkward experience. I only had $40 in my cash to actually have fun. So I had to stretch out those $40 really well. But since then, I've been cosplaying. I've been going to different conventions from Akon, Anime Fest, Anime Frontier, Anime North Texas. Let's see what other one. Cowtown Comic Con. This is actually my first one at Nishi Fest. So yeah, I think I got some other ones in my hand or in my pocket, but that's for another time. So, as you can see, welcome. Thank you for being here. This is the top 5 90s games. I'm assuming that everyone here has been born or around the 90s. Born or lived around the 90s. For you youngsters, this is going to be an interesting one because this is where you get to see what we used to play. And sometimes when we got angry, when we cried, and when we broke those controllers. And Metal Gear Solid was definitely one game that almost got me to break that $40 controller. Now with the controllers that now worth the same price as the game, I'm like, no, I'm not going to break it. I'm just going to go outside, cuss out, and then come back. So, we're going to take 5 games, of course, and it's going to be out of random, so I don't know you guys as of right now, but hopefully we do. So we're just going to take any games from the 90s. It can be from any console, defunct or still around. It could be the most common one. It could be the most rarest one of them all. You guys get to pick those top 4, and then I will pick the last one. So anyone here has a game that they want to mention, how they got into that game? Any game?
Galaga?
Yeah. It was from the 90s?
I think so.
Are you sure?
I'm not sure, but I played it in the 90s.
Okay. Does anyone else have played a video game from the 90s? Oh, well, I saw your hand first.
I'd like to nominate Earthbound.
Earthbound. Oh, that's an interesting. Has anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead and pick one game at a time. Okay, so I saw your hand, so you're number 2, and you're number 3. All right, good. Number 4. All right. All right. So has anyone been familiar with Earthbound? You have. You have. Okay. So my question is, how did you guys got into that game? Was it did someone bought the game for you, or was it right there on display, or did you play it because it was a Super Nintendo Mini console?
Super Nintendo.
It's from the Super Nintendo Mini, or?
At the time.
Oh, okay.
So I played it.
All right, has anyone else played Earthbound as well? All right, so Earthbound was we're going to type in Earthbound trailer, please. So Earthbound is an RPG game that came out during the early to mid 90s. Now, this game I didn't know. I was more into Sega at that time. So for me, I didn't know what Earthbound was until I think it was that Super Smash Brothers Brawl or Melee, which Ness was a special character. And I was like, who's Ness? And what is Earthbound? Because I didn't know. So then later on, I watched watched this video based on the Angry Video Game Nerd, which I think some of you are familiar. And he did a sketch based on Earthbound. So I said, you know what? He's there. I like his stuff. Why not? So I watched it, and the thing is that Earthbound was somewhere around between Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Donkey Kong Country. So it's really hard to kind of be close to these big juggernauts. You get hidden, you get lost. So it wasn't until later on, once they started adding characters from Super Smash Brothers, and then eventually with the Super Nintendo Mini, they came with that game included. So now they say that this is actually one of the best RPGs for the Super Nintendo. I was watching the video, the gameplay, and it looks really interesting. And at that time, I was not really into RPG games. So it's more of action, fighting, sports, and platform. So I didn't get into RPGs until Persona 3 Feds, but that's way later on. All right. So you, sir, since you raised your hand, was there a special experience, a boss fight that you got really angry about? You want to do that? Because we're here to help you get that interviews problem. You want to, because I know that game must have really upset you.
Well, there was a period of time in my life where I really wasn't interested in video games really because I admit I'm not completely 90s kid here. So you were talking about Super Smash Bros. Of course, Super Smash Bros. Brawl back in 2008, I think, was a big thing. And I remember reading the trophies and stuff, and I was seeing all the stuff about the Mother series, and I was like, this sounds really interesting. I want to look into this. So I scoured 2008 internet for everything I could about this game, and I just fell in love with it. I loved the presentation, the style, the sense of humor. I think it just was one of those early gateway games for me to get into some things later on.
Now, what makes this Earthbound game interesting is, I think you probably may have known, is that this was actually part 2 of the Mother trilogy. Now, unfortunately, I don't think the other 2 came out, right? It was only in Japan. So it's a downer because I saw this and I agree with what you're saying. It was a really interesting game. It had its own gimmicks here and there, but it's a downer that you didn't get a chance to get the other 2. So, did anyone else raise their hand? No? Alright, so it's funny because in Anime Dallas, this is a true story, I just finished up a panel called How Much, and it's basically called Expensive Video Games. Any type of video game, and one of the guys, and sadly the time ran out, we only had 15 minutes to make a presentation, and he was about to shout Earthbound, and I'm like, I would love to know how much Earthbound costs now as a Super Nintendo cartridge. So sadly, I couldn't show it because of time. But then later on, I saw it on eBay, and then I was like, yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah, I think I'm better off with the Super Nintendo Mini as opposed to the cartridge. But I'm just saying that if you have it, I strongly recommend you to save it because houses are expensive, and you can make a good down payment on that with Earthbound. Just like earlier today, we had a couple of panelists based on the Fullmetal Alchemist series, of course, of equivalent exchange. So here you go, you equivalent exchange Earthbound, and you get a nice house. Okay. Alright, so anyone else want to talk about Earthbound before we jump to game number 2?
I just wanted to say that it was kind of an addendum to what you mentioned. The first Mother game actually was released in America fairly recently in 2015 for the Wii U as Earthbound beginning, and it's also on the Switch Online. I mean, I don't know if I'm really an authority on that. I'm not very familiar with the first Mother game.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know because the thing is for me, I never was really into Nintendo. When I was during the 80s, I was more of this game console. I think maybe for the older people might be familiar with. called Chrono 16. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so that's the game that I played. And then after that, I played the Sega Genesis. And then after that, I played. We were given a Nintendo, an OG Nintendo. And then afterwards, we were in a situation between getting the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation. So we got a PlayStation because how else are you gonna be playing Metal Gear Solid with the Nintendo 64, right? So like, hey, all right, I got the disc. Why is it not fitting there? Why is it so bulky? All right. So anyone else? Anyone else want to talk about Earthbound before we jump to game number 2? No. All right. Since you, what game are you having in your mind? Which top 5?
Probably Super Mario 64.
Ooh. I think everyone's familiar with 64. Yep. All right. All right. So I played a demo at Walmart a while back, and it was one of those games that I was really close to convincing my dad to go get it. And it came with 4 ports, that means 4 controllers. I don't think there was a need for a memory card, because it came with it, right? The hard disk drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And it was basically built into a cartridge, unlike the latest PC sometimes. You can store data, but you have to have separate memory cards for those. Or with the PlayStation, or you can stick a CD format.
I remember that there was that one, and there was some other games, 2 games that I wanted to get from that lineup. It was Star Wars Shadows of the Empire and Turok, because I have a thing for dinosaurs. Alright, so does anybody have questions or experiences you want to talk about Mario 64? Was there something? Yes.
Mario 64 was the first game I ever played. I was 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
My parents bought an N64. My parents were young at the time, so they were playing Sega Dreamcast, and we used to play Star Fox together, you know. But that was the first one I ever played, and I was a gamer because
I'm surprised because for me, when I was 5, I was still playing with toys. And every time when I got close to that Rev 16, my dad said, like, no, you're not ready. You know, your hands. they're just saying. And is there any Hispanics around here? Okay, so I think you're gonna hear this really easily. So there's this saying that goes, "Tienes manos de tripa," if you know what I mean. For those who don't know what that means, is that you have hands of intestines. That means it dissolves. You have the skill to destroy something. And so for me, you know, it was an expensive console, so I wasn't ready. You know, my intestinos, mis tripa fingers were not ready for that type of object or item. So it wasn't until I think it was until like maybe when I was 7 or 8 I started playing with the video game controller. All right. I remember one time I was watching this through a rage quit, and someone was trying to do this glitch. I think you or perhaps some others are familiar with the glitch that you could jump to Bowser by just jumping like this. You gotta find a way. Is there? Can you check out for me, please? Yeah, it is bizarre because you gotta go up the stairs, and you gotta find a certain angle, and then you gotta jump, and then you gotta jump it rapidly, so then you can be like this. Did you ever do that, or do you just beat the game like beginning to the end?
I don't know if I ever beat it when I was a kid, but I beat it multiple times since then. Got all 120 stars, because I heard you could ride Yoshi, and we all thought on the playground you could ride him. You can't ride him. It gives you 99 lives after you already beat the game.
Yeah, well, you're not, well, it's something like that, but you gotta do it much rapidly. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Something like that. So that way you don't have to go through. So that was basically a glitch. Anyone else have a story about Mario 64?
Yeah, Mario 64 is the first game that I was ever given as a gift. It was the first game I ever beat, and the first game I ever 100%ed. So I played a lot of it. For you?
I think sometimes when you beat a game, you just beat the game and then you're done. You move on. But for me, I'm basically like I'm a bit of a completionist, so I try to get all the coins and collectives. One of the games that I also wanted to get for Nintendo 64 was Banjo-Kazooie. You guys are familiar with that too? It's a rare game. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for Conker's Bad Fur Day. I was not ready for that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really fun. It's a fun game, but just like Oddworld Cave Odyssey and Exodus, there is a challenge to it. So if you start dying a lot, just like I said, just put the controller down, go outside, look at the sun, take a deep breath, and then say, okay, I think I'm ready. Yeah. No, I've seen a lot of rage quits, and they would just destroy those controls. And I'm like, yeah, that is about the same price as that game, so no. All right. Anyone else have a question besides Super Mario World before 64 before we jump to number 3? No? All right, you sir, you look like Snake. I hope it's not. No, it's not Metal Gear.
No, it's Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger. Ooh. Now I've heard of Chrono Trigger, but the thing is that I know that has the same character designs like Dragon Quest, so I knew that those two were from Squaresoft, if I'm correct. I never was. I don't know why, but it looked cool, but I never. Like I said, during that time, I was really into action and platform and sports. So this was one of those games I also missed out because there were some really good RPGs during the 90s. So how did you get into the game? Was it a birthday gift or someone gave it to you? Or?
I was really into Final Fantasy games and Dragon Quest games. And when I noticed that it was the same guys that did Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, and the character designer was from Dragon Ball, that's when I was like, I gotta play this game. And after I played the game, it went into time traveling aspects, and after that I'm like, I think I'm gonna play this game forever. And I still enjoy it.
It's awesome. I mean, for me, sometimes I had to really get into like those old games. Like I still play some Sony games, and then I'm like, do I want to play this game? Or even though I beat it for the 15th, 20th time, I'm like, no, I think I'm good. So, does anyone else play Chrono Trigger besides this young man? Yes.
My favorite game of all time. It's just straight up like, if you haven't played it, I recommend you do. I just beat it recently, like in 2020, when we were all quarantined. Even though it was from the mid 90s, it aged really well. All the mechanics and everything, with a lot of RPGs, you hit a brick wall. Yeah. You don't deal with that with Chrono Trigger. There's no grinding. It's just the gameplay is just so solid. The story is amazing. The characters are just. It's a flawless game. It's amazing. I can gush about it all day long. That was honestly going to be my answer before him, but it's okay after that game. But yeah, no, I just play Chrono Trigger. It's amazing. It really is.
Now for me, I do sometimes buy some. I remember that I bought a Nintendo. I bought a GameCube back then because I wanted to play Resident Evil 0. This was before it was for all consoles. So I was like, really? Do I really want to play that? Buy that, and then Resident Evil 0. And then when they said, oh, Twin Snakes is a part of GameCube, so I'm like, okay, so I get zombies and military, so yeah, why not? But now, is this console also for PlayStation? Because I'm a big...
There's a PlayStation version of it, but it was originally for Super Nintendo.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The PlayStation version got cutscenes as well.
Oh, that's cool. So I remember my brother actually has Dragon Quest 8 for PS2, and I saw that. I was like, okay, so you got Dragon Ball Z, like he said, based on the characters or the character designer from Dragon Ball, and then it's very similar to Chrono Trigger and it's very similar to Dragon Quest. So like, oh wait, something's going on here.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, you two, since you guys played a lot of Chrono Trigger, was there a boss fight or a certain story in the game that you really enjoyed the most or hated the most?
There was probably some notions in the game where I accidentally got to the last boss, like in the middle of the game, and I'm like, I didn't mean to go there. I wasn't ready for that yet.
Yeah, that's what happens sometimes.
But there are multiple endings to the game too.
How many endings are there?
11.
About 32.
11?
30.
30?
Well, that's what I heard. Like,
Oh.
11, but like according to Google.com, there was 30, but I could be wrong.
I don't know if I can ever get invested in a game with that many endings. Right. There was this game called Heavy Rain. I don't know if you guys have played it for the PS3. That game had, I think, somewhere around 8 to 11 endings. And I was like, oh my god, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And then later on I played this game called Detroit Become Human, who are the same people who made that game. And there's 3 characters in there. So then they said, oh, there's over 50 endings. I'm like, listen, there's some other games that I want to play. This is going to take me about 2 or 3 months straight to get all the endings from Detroit Become Human. Okay. Does anyone else have a little experience and want to talk about Chrono Trigger before we go to game number 3? I saw game number 3 around here somewhere. Who was game number 3? Oh, you were number 3, right? Who was number 4? Someone raise your hand for game number 4. Was that you?
Yeah, me.
Okay, so what's your game?
Pokemon.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop. Okay. There's a lot of Pokemon games in the 90s, so you gotta be really specific of which one.
Red, blue, yellow.
Okay, a lot more specific, because you can only pick one.
Okay, then they're kind of the same game, but blue. That's
No,
the
blue.
one.
Pokemon Blue, please. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, so, I'm assuming everyone's familiar with Pokemon, right? There you go. Alright, so how did you guys get Pokemon?
Well, even though I wasn't born in the 90s, I was born in 99, I got a lot of hand-me-down stuff, right? So, as I think I was like 5 for Christmas, I got a Game Boy Color. And on my way to my grandma's house, I was playing Pokemon Blue. And I just haven't looked back since.
Okay.
I have fond memories of on my way back from my grandma's house. It came with a little worm light, just like trying to like see the screen.
Yeah.
Or like as like you're passing like a street light, you're trying to see like the game playing, right? It took me like a whole school year to finally beat Pokemon.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I just like ever since then it's been my favorite game series.
And that was just Blue, right?
Yeah, I started with Blue. That's the cartridge. I still have the original cartridge, not that shape, but I still have the original cartridge.
Now, does anyone else play Pokemon? Either it's blue, red, yellow, or whatever color? Do you have an interesting experience? You want to talk about Pokemon?
I just think it's cool because they make a new one every year.
Yeah, I heard it has some bizarre colors as well. Like one was like Pearl Diamond and Blue Sapphire and Lunar Green and something. So I was just thinking to myself, do they just pick colors or do they go to Home Depot and say, let me get some samples? They all look a little green. That's all I understand. Bizarre colors, and then it's also copyright. That means no one else can take Super Jungle Emerald. I'm like, okay. I don't need a stupid color either. So, anyone else want to talk about Pokemon? Either it's you, Scorpion?
So, I got into Pokemon with Pokemon Gold. My parents bought it for me. After I beat that game, they got me Pokemon Yellow. And for some reason, I've always liked Yellow a lot more than Gold. And it's like the sister games of Pokemon Blue. Yeah, those are like the first games I ever beat on my own and just played the hell out of for a really long time. So.
And you said you played Gold, right?
Yes.
So is it? I've never played Pokemon, but I'm familiar with the anime and the characters and so on. So does it took you? Did it take you longer? Because according to this young man, he said it took him a school year to finish Pokemon Blue. Is it about the same length of the average length of a Pokemon game?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say the maybe blue, red, blue, and yellow are probably harder. But those games are real rough.
Now there was this one time I heard of a rare Pokemon called Mysigno. I think some people are familiar with that or heard of it. Some sort of a glitch, blocky Pokemon.
Missing number.
Which one?
Missing number.
Missing number. Thank you. So I was like, oh, okay, that's okay, is that a fan site or what is that? So you have to go through some stuff in order to get this Pokemon or defeat this Pokemon. So it was a really rare thing to see. But I saw it on YouTube, so I was like, oh, this is interesting. All right, so I'm gonna put my. What time is it right now? 2:45? 25? Oh God. Looks like we had. All right, so let me go ahead and hold mine. The other ones will be just sides, So yeah, because I'm gonna hold mine for the last. I want to hear your guys' stories. Anyone else have another game from the 90s? I saw this one. Dr. Mario. Ooh. Dr. Mario, please. Now, I'm assuming some people have played. Have you guys played Dr. Mario? Dr. Mario? Yes. Yeah, this one, for those who are not familiar, Dr. Mario is basically like Tetris. If I'm correct. Now, this was from the original Game Boy. So this one was about as thick as a brick. So, but it was very heavy duty. I mean, I think Nintendo had something in mind when they were designing this game because they said, oh, kids are going to be playing it. Kids have manos de tripas, so they're going to be playing this stuff. So that game, thanks again, guys. Those control, this console was meant to withstand some turbulence, right? In fact, there was a story about a soldier that had a Game Boy whenever he had some downtime, and there was an explosion, and when they went to drop off his stuff, there was the blown up console, the burned up part of the Game Boy, and it still worked. So, yeah, if you ever are in a sticky situation, just dress yourself with nothing but Game Boys, and if you get hit by a truck, you'll be scratch free. All right. So, how did you get into Dr. Mario?
Oh, this was me and my mom. We didn't play on Game Boy. We played on. And we would sit for hours and do this. And even now, when my kids are giving me the Mom, you don't know anything about gaming, I would take them upstairs and trash them.
Oh, is that? I'm over here, the kids, right?
No, she's not. My kids just left. But I would take them upstairs and I'll be like, oh no.
I think that's the reason why they left. They go, hold on. I heard this story before. No, thank you. So, is anyone else want to talk about Dr. Mario? Have an interesting experience or story based on Dr. Mario? Okay, no worries. We'll go to the next game. Who else has a game in mind? Someone hasn't raised their hand yet. Yes.
Mario 64?
Yeah, we already talked about it earlier. I'm sorry. Do you have another game in mind besides that one?
Yoshi Island?
Yoshi's Island, please. Thank you. This was for the Super Nintendo, right? Am I correct? Yes. So how did you guys do Yoshi's Island? How do you guys do Yoshi's Island? How do you obtain that copy? No, but I mean, how did you, did your mom, did your parents buy it for you, or did they pass it down?
That was me.
Oh, that was it? Oh, okay. So how did you, like, was it the trailer that caught the attention to buy that game, or was it just word of mouth?
The trailer.
The trailer, the commercial? Okay. Alright, so has anyone else played Yoshi's Island as well? No? No?
I have.
You have? Alright. How did you got familiar with it?
Well, in my country, I'm from the Netherlands.
Oh.
And there was a special Nintendo Club that came with its own magazine, which reviewed games for its various systems. And Yoshi's Island, along with Donkey Kong Country 2, caught my eye, and next thing I knew, I had it. I got it for Christmas.
It's interesting that you're from the Netherlands. I actually have a dino colleague, a cosplay colleague from the Netherlands too. Yeah, she's big into dinosaurs, and she said, I asked, what's your favorite dinosaur? And she said, Triceratops. So I sent her a display. Oh my gosh, she could not stop talking about it. So,
Yeah.
really? It looks like, well, you have a wife. It's your wife, right? Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. You're going to be spoiled with Triceratops. That's interesting. That's interesting that you're from that area. Anyone else have a story about Yoshi's Island? Yeah. I saw this the commercial, and I thought it was interesting, but I'm not sure if it's a follow-up or a spin-off to Super Mario World. I'm not really sure if someone can help me out with that. But, oh no, I just never couldn't get invested to it. Was there a number 2, right? Number 2?
There was. I think so. I believe there's a number 2.
Oh, okay. All right, interesting. All right, so we got Yoshi's Island. Is there anyone else that you guys want to talk about?
Chico.